Do you guys remember that legendary This Is War Marineford AMV? Bro, I have had that thing stuck in my mind for the past few days. Bro. And I can see the images because I used to watch that AMV so many times. Unfortunately, it was deleted and I believe it was re-uploaded again. Dude, that AMV was special, man. I had a few AMVs that I always went back to in regards to One Piece, especially back in the AMV days, the hardcore AMV days. But man, that one always stuck out to me. I remember I used to rewatch that one all of the time. And every time I rewatch it, I'd be like, bro, Marineford really is that greatness, you know? And it'd be one of those things where I would pull out my volumes and just be like, man, this arc really was peak. You know what I mean? Bro, how does one write 30 chapters like this that are just non-stop absolute gas? But here we are again. Here we are again on Egghead Island, where he is producing more than 30 chapters of absolute gas, back to back to back to back to back, in a different way. In a different way, obviously, right? But it's just like, man, who would have ever thought, first go around with the story, they would be getting something like this, except it would be more akin, obviously, to Sabaody Archipelago. We're not gonna see the Marineford 2.0 or whatever until we get to the end of the series. But the way that Egghead makes me feel, the way that Wano made me feel, it's like going back to whenever you first going through the series and you get to the greatness, right? And it's like, man, when something is giving you that kind of feel, it has to be something special. And Egghead Island truly has been one of those, every chapter is generational material, just like this arc. And I guess that's why I haven't been able to stop thinking about that. And obviously, I'm preparing myself for the favorite arcs of all time thing. So I've been trying to reminisce and remember all of the greatness that we had in the past, right? And the other arcs, trying to compare Egghead to all of my favorites and see where it ends up on the list. So maybe that's why I've had the This Is War AMV stuck in my head. Or maybe I have the This Is War AMV stuck in my head because it's just that gas. Regardless, we have a few comments to get to today for the chapter 1115 Afterthoughts. Now, I did a discussion a few days ago where I was just rambling. I don't even know if it would merit being called a discussion because it was not a discussion, it was a ramble. You know what I mean? I was just sitting here losing my mind in front of a camera as I normally do, but that day in particular, I was just like, bro, I have to sit down and put my thoughts into some sort of cohesion, right? And I recorded that here on the channel, uploaded a few days ago. Last time we did that was for that Stretch of Legend, one of the chapters in Stretch of Legend. I don't remember if it was Divine Departure or 1085 or whatever it was. I know we did it for one of those chapters. But now we are here again with another crazy stretch of chapters, which I can't wait to see the continuation of that here in the upcoming chapter release. Thank God there's no break this week. But we start off this week with Silver Shot 5208, which, as always, Silver Shot, I love your profile picture. Thoughts about the chapter. Like the last few chapters, Oda's going out of his way to show us the reactions of characters from many different arcs. Like Foxy and his crew. Still can't believe that, bro. We got Mr. Faye, and his crew, the Minx, Baroque Works, Nojiko, Genzo, Koshiro, etc. to truly make the Egghead incident feel like a world-altering event. In the most literal sense. Plus, it's also nice to see all the characters again after not seeing them for so long. That's one of my favorite things about these kind of chapters. And Oda in the final saga has taken full advantage of his all-star cast to make us feel things. I remember in that one cameo fest we had in, was it 1100? Where we went around the world, the end of Kuma's flashback, and we saw everybody's reactions to what happened in Kuma's flashback. So we saw Hancock and Ace, Perona and Gecko Moria, Crocodile and Miss All Sunday. I remember we just went around the world there at the end, and then of course we switched to Luffy and Fuchsia Village to end the chapter. And it's those kind of chapters that just remind you, man, whoa, this is a crazy all-star cast, in these past few chapters where Vegapunk's been relaying this message and we've been getting everybody's reactions to it around the world, it is that kind of thing amplified. It's like, bro, we're seeing everyone's reactions to the events that are going to forever change the course of the story, right? From this point forward, people are going to know about Joy Boy and the enemy which he is facing. In the WG, the true celestial dragons, the true Gorosei, and the one who stands above the ball, right? And it's like in the ancient weapons, learning more about everybody's figuring out all this stuff for the first time. The fact that the planet is or at least the old world was flooded and underwater. It's like, man, so many different things that are people within the One Piece world never would have imagined, right? At least maybe some of them did. Like, I'm going to assume, like I've been saying for several streams now, that Crocodile had to have had some sort of idea. And we know Doflamingo for sure has the clue, which is why I really can't wait to see the Yonko reactions to all of this, because especially Shanks and Blackbeard, considering their endgame importance, and Blackbeard and knowing his dreams will never end speech, one of the all-time greats, but especially his connection to rocks. And we don't know how far it goes for Blackbeard and how much he actually knows. And you can say the same thing about Shanks, obviously, now that we know what Luffy's fruit is, and the fact that he gave him that fruit all that time ago. It's like, man, it's there's a lot, and I'm very excited to see where the story goes from this point forward, considering those reactions around the world. So a lot of stuff to think about, to think about. Continuing on from my last point, I wonder what else Oda's going to show. Who else Oda's going to show reaction to Vegapunk's message? Like Cross-Skilled, Red Pirates, and Viper Pirates. Okay, we were just talking about that. The Admirals, the Holy Knights. Dude, if we see the Holy Knights reacting to this and how they will feel about the world sinking, I think Shanks and Buggy might know a little bit of the message due to them being former Roger Pirates. And I'm sure that people like Green Bull and the Holy Knights who still work for WG after this. But people like Akainu Fujitoro who have showed open disdain for the WG and Celestial Dragons will start actively rebelling against them. You see, what's fascinating about Akainu is, even though he actively rebels against the Gorosei, because they've always had an antagonistic relationship, he is always very similar, and honestly, to a Luffy in regards to, Law may tell him to do something, and he's like, oh yeah, F that, we're gonna do something else. And he just goes 100% into what he believes is right for the situation. Akainu is very similar, where the Gorosei may be commanding this brother and just berating him, and Akainu is just like, sweet mother flagnards, like, if only I could have the freedom that someone like Luffy has, right? And it just makes you think, right? Especially in the post time skip, where Akaino's just been sitting at his chair, wanting to get out of it and go out and do his thing. I wonder if this is going to be the thing that pushes him over the edge and truly makes him start moving against whatever the case may be, right? It's just exciting stuff that obviously has been built up for a very long time. But you're absolutely right in regards to those characters. And Akainu Fujitora for very different reasons, right? Like Fujitora, who was doing it, of course, for his own sense of justice and for his play in the entire thing, which ended up being extremely important with the abolition of the Shichibukai system. But Akainu in a very, very different way. And it's just, I love that. I love how characters, especially within the Marines, we can look at Kizaru, Akainu, Fujitora, Kuzan, did I already say Kizaru, Green Bull. We can look at these characters, and each and every single one of them has their own sense of justice that immediately comes to your mind, and their own different ways that they should react to this, right, to all of this news. And so I really appreciate that, because on the other side of things with the Yonko, we're also very excited to see their reactions, because we know of their endgame importance and how different they are from one another. Like, how are they going to react to everything that's been said? Do they already know about this stuff? Do they not know about this stuff? It's very interesting stuff. On the topic of the WG and the God's Knights, do you think that we will see the rest of the God Valley incident this year? No. Because I feel like the missing parts of it could tie back to this message concerning rocks, the disappearance of God Valley, and the thing that the pirates are just looking for at God Valley. I hope so, but I'm going to say no, because we're dealing with Ichiro Oda here in the final saga, and who knows what that means, right? I don't know how late Oda wants to give us the God Valley flashback, but I don't think it's time for it yet, especially with momentum going as high as it is right now. I think we're on the way out the door, on the way into post Egghead, going into Elbaf. So it's like I don't know where he could drop the God Valley flashback in at one of those points. I have no idea. But if he does drop it this year, then that would be another feather in the cap that has been a legendary year so far. Mars and Saturn during Stux's conversation with Konku show Conquerors in this chapter, which means probably Nostro and Jupiter probably have it as well. I'm gonna go out and say right now that each member of the Gorosei has Conquerors. I'm just gonna be upfront with you right then and there. Like, I truly do believe each individual member is probably not only just proficient in the three forms of Haki, but that they all for sure have Conquerors and potentially Conquerors coding as well. Nostro cutting Egghead's cloud is a genuinely crazy feat from him. Dude, I still can't believe that happened in this chapter. Which might be a part of Mihawk's feat of Marineford splitting the iceberg casually. When we see the other emperors, the admirals, the Revolutionary Army, Mihawk, and the elders, and the other top tier go all out, we're going to be in for a wild ride. I think that's why Oda's saving them all for the end. When the entire planet, is we can see the real scope of all these individuals' abilities. Vegapunk confirming that there once were continents a millennium ago, and they were sunk due to the power of the ancient weapons, causing the sea level to rise 200 meters. Makes so much sense considering all the clues we haven't gone throughout the course of the story, like Jinbei's cover. Yeah, exactly. Like Jinbei's cover story, the Noah, Old Wano, Aqua Laguna, all these different things, bro. All these different things make so much sense. Like I said, we finally get to see Joybird for the first time, although in a silhouette, still feet go around fire, 100%. Makes me think we're going to get more info about stuff like Nika, the Buccaneers, and tidbits of the voice entry during Elbaf. I think Elbaf is going to give us the most that we've seen to this point, right next to Wano and Egghead, obviously, to all of the stuff Void Century and before that. Because like I talked about in my Stream of Consciousness thoughts video a few days ago, I genuinely do believe we're about to get the Nika flashback before the Joybird flashback. I do. I definitely do think Elbaf is going to give us a look into the world before the Void Century, which is going to be so cool. So cool. So we can have further context into how crazy it is that an advanced civilization existed after that, right? Like, I do think we're heading down that line with how much we keep banging on the door of the Void Century. We have to figure out, now that we know that Nika and Joybird are two different people, that the Nika side of things as well. And I think the perfect time for that would be Elbaf. During that part, where Vegapunk mentions Joyboy's defeat, it pans over to Zunisha and the Iron Giant, which makes me think that they serve as parallels to Chopper and Frankie on Joyboy's crew, respectively. Furthermore, I think Lily, Toki, and Poseidon were also part of this crew, and were working together to defeat Emu and the other 19 kings. The fact that it was 20 whole kingdoms against a crew that I'm going to assume parallel the Straw Hat Pirates is insane. That is insane, man. The art these past few chapters have honestly been amazing. Vegapunk's Head Inside Punk Records, dude, his art has been crazy. It's been so good. The Mother Flame and now the underwater shot of the old civilization with Sea Kings and the Fish. Dude, that shot of the underwater shot of the old civilization with the Sea Kings is one of my favorite panels in the entire story. Like, that panel's so good. I can't believe that panel's in the same chapter as the double page spread with Nostro cutting Egghead in half. It's crazy. It is actually crazy. Vegapunk mentioning that the old war is still ongoing is similar to the Skypian War that ended after 400 years due to the defeat of Enel with Luffy. Yes, where the 800-year-long war will end with the defeat of Ibu and WG by Luffy and his crew, 100%. How do you think Vegapunk will end his message? Think Emi will mention Imu and the 20 Kings, the energy source he was struggling to look for, or something else Void Century related? I do think. So, I've been thinking about this a lot. Ever since the chapter ended. And I'm half and half. I'm half and half on Emu being revealed. Because I feel like one of two things is about to happen. And post Egghead. Either Vivi and Big News Morgans are going to reveal Emu's existence to the world, or Emu himself is going to reveal his existence to the world. I don't think it'll be Vegapunk. So if it's not Vegapunk, then what is going to be his final message? How the way that he wraps all this up, considering all the insanity we've got so far. I want to say Ancient Kingdom reveal, but at this point we've gotten so many confirmations that putting something else like that would just be absolutely insane. If he does it, the ultimate lore piece arc. It already is, but God, could you imagine that? So that's of course up on the table. I don't think any of the other endgame stuff we touched until the end of the story, like the Will of D and all that. We already have so many clues as it is. I think that'll be touched whenever we get into the thick of it and at Laughtail. But as far as ending it off, like to cap off his message, man, I would not be surprised, knowing the way this story is and the way that this story has been written to this point, if he starts name dropping. What I mean by that is, don't be surprised if at the end of this arc, if at the end of this entire message and situation, that he utilizes this opportunity to tell the entire world either that A, Luffy is Joy Boy, and that at this point in time, he is going up and in like somewhere against the Gorosei as a premonition to both of those things. Because of course, but whenever he recorded this message, he did not have the concrete information that all of this was going to happen. Obviously, this happened after that, right? But just knowing the way Vegapunk has gone about things so far, I would not be surprised if he ends off the message with him hyping up Luffy. And like, yo, Pirate King Monkey D. Luffy is that Joy Boy. Or we get an Odin type of thing. Like the 20 years later narration type of thing, which would be so epic. So epic. But I don't know if Oda wants to take that route, because he probably is going to try to make people come up with their own conclusions on who Joy Boy is. So, because of that, my option B is that Vegapunk will end the message with, because the 800-year war is still ongoing, Joy Boy will return. And when he makes his return, the world will be flipped upside down, similar to what Whitebeard said. And that would lead to two of the most prominent figures in the entire story saying the exact same thing. And that the world has been turned up, the world will be turned upside down. And Roger said the same thing, you know. Prominent individuals before their death that said this thing. And especially, now it really makes sense after the reveals of the world sinking and the old world being underwater. Like, all of that makes sense. But what better way to end the message than to tie it into the individuals whom he is carrying their will, the O'Haras, the Whitebeards, the individuals who came before. He inherited their will, and now everyone else will be able to inherit Vegapunk's will, who inherited theirs. It's like, what better way, man? So I think that's the route he's gonna go about it, but you have no idea how hyped I would be if he would just name drop that, like, yo, Straw Hat Pirates name. Let's go, man, our heroes, dude. However, maybe Egghead has provided us with a genuine S-grade quality material with Egghead itself, Law vs. Blackbeard, Luke vs. Lucci. The 1079-1088 stretch is one of the greatest stretches of chapters ever. Shanks vs. Kid, Hachinosu battle, Crossgo going after One Piece, and Level A flashback. Kuma's flashback, Gorosei arriving, and right now the biggest voice actor I've had since O'Hara on Fishman Island. Like, seriously. And I think I'll definitely be better with Usopp greatness, more giant information, Robin and Saul's reunion, Nika lore, maybe more stuff with Crossgill, Blackbeard, Shanks, and the rest of the Admirals of Kizaru going into action, getting their chance to shine. Maybe even more Underworld and Treasure Tree, Adam lore. Elbaf and the arcs after are legit going to be insane with faction vs. faction all-out battles with one another to accomplish their goals no matter what the cost and effect. And even more lore about the One Piece world as a whole. It will genuinely be insane. Dude, chills, man. You know? all of that greatness is truly incoming. Like, brother, this is the beginning of the final saga. And that's why I really can't wait to see what post Egghead is going to have in store for us. Thank you so much for your comment. And that is because post Egghead is going to be that bridge. Ending the chapter with Emu is not coincidental in the slightest. Like, bro, Oda has a plan for what he has in store with Emu, and you brought up the Holy Knights earlier, and the Holy Knights, right? Obviously, we talked many different points after the chapter 1064, and especially after the Garling reveal, that once the Holy Knights are mobilized, that's going to be when the Revs move too. So all these factions are going to be moving, right? Now, we obviously know Shanks is still going after Blackbeard, so there's these different factions that we know are going to meet up eventually. And the closer we get to the end of the story, the closer we get to all of that. So I think post Egghead is going to be that one crazy push towards all of that happening on the outside before we head into what is more than likely going to be our final adventure before Laugh-Tale. So crazy, man. I mean, if Laugh-Tale, I can't wait for Elbaf, dude. I really can't. Thank you, Silvershot. I appreciate you. Michael Mickles comes in and says, maybe Joy Boy and his allies gained the power of the fruits from some source and were able to turn the tide on the emu, which led them to us the ancient weapons in order to possibly destroy the source and Joy Boy's faction altogether. Now that the fruit source is trying to recall his powers back whenever a user enters the sea. So Michael Mickles dropped an incredible comment on stream that said, maybe it has some sort of connection. I'm paraphrasing you, but maybe it has some sort of connection. These reveals as to why, like, the fruit users, it's like they're being called back to their home, like they're being called back to the old world. And I've been thinking a lot about that comment because I hadn't heard anything like that before because we didn't have this reveal. But with the reveal and then hearing Michael Mickles say that, it's like, well, yeah, there has to be some sort of connection there. There has to be. These fruits, in some way, shape, or form, sinking into the sea, we know how Oda is. Oda always introduces something, and then it makes us ask the question, why? Why does this happen, right? Like, why do these fruit users enter the sea, and then they immediately start sinking, right? Like, it's just one of those things, and they can't do anything about it. And it's like, how amazing would it be if this concept introduced in chapter 1 would end up being one of the most important endgame reveals that would tie into the truth of the world, right? Like, it would be so Oda. But in regards to your comment on Joy Boy and his allies, yes, I firmly do believe that you're absolutely right. They were about to turn the tide on Emu. And everything that was happening at that point in time. But then the ancient weapons were used, and that's probably what turned the tide and caused the sea levels to rise 200 meters, and exactly what was brought up by Silvershot just a few minutes ago, and by Vegapunk. So it's like we know of these things. We understand that the 3 Egyptian gods and the going with Obelisk and Slifer and the winged dragon of Ra, as Poseidon, Pluton, and Uranus. It's like, dude, the fact that he has access still to Uranus, 110%, I'm assuming that's exactly what was confirmed within this chapter. But in this day and age, he will not have access to either Pluton or Poseidon. Poseidon will probably attempt to go after and maybe even for some point in time succeed. And similarly with Pluton, but I think at the end of the story, we have been led to a situation where Poseidon, aka Shirahoshi, and Pluton, under the guise of, or under the direct control of Momonosuke or whatever is going to be happening there, is going to be on the side of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, the Alliance. And so that is going to be one of the things that allows us to overcome Joy Boy. And like I said, to overcome Emu. And like I said, in the stream or in the thoughts video, it's so cool to me how the Joy Boy, Emu and Luffy stuff connect. And in particular with Emu and Luffy, how Luffy is going to have this massive grand fleet that is going to be going against this one prominent figure with his dudes. Similar how it was back in the day when Emu rolled up on Joy Boy and them, when it was almost this exact same thing, this humongous alliance, this humongous grand fleet against this one group of pirates. Now instead it's this humongous fleet of pirates versus this one ring. It's just super cool to me how that parallels. But it's dope. Michael, man, you cooked. You really, really cooked, because that is something that I have not been able to stop thinking about. Something else I haven't been able to stop thinking about is anime comes in, or anime. I don't know why I said anime, because of the A. Anime comes at one, says, if someone told me we were going to get Tomorrow Black, Foxy, and Joy Boy in the same chapter, I wouldn't believe it. Me neither. But that's Final Saga Oda at his absolute finest. At his absolute finest. Kanemaki comes in and says, Pangea Castle in the Holy Land just makes all the more sense now. So, after reading Toriko, which, to anyone who has not read the Whoa Kugi Panji greatness, I remember we had a discussion live stream talking about Pangea, because that is a concept that is brought up within Toriko. And I remember us having this discussion on stream, and that was the first time that ever came to mind. This idea of Pangea and the separation of the continents. I'd never heard of that concept before that stream. That was like back in like 2013, 2014 on the old channel. And so, upon leaving that, I of course looked at the Mighty Joe in a very similar light, especially when we started looking at the ore stuff, and I wasn't the first person to make these connections. But I'm talking when I first made these connections, right? With the Pangean ores and the continent pulling and all of that stuff. But with the context of this chapter, now it completely makes sense as to why this place and a location called Pangea Castle in the Holy Land, which might have been shot up similar to how Skypiea was shot up. You know, like, bro, these things, man. It's these connections. It's these continuous flurries of information that allow each arc to feel so intricately connected. And it's just like, man, give me more. But you're absolutely right. It really does make all the more sense now. It's crazy. N64 comes in and says, hey coach, you notice in the first Joy Boy sighting, it looks like he's doing the Snake Man pose as opposed to Gear 5. But he's definitely in the Gear 5 form. There's no doubt about that. Thoughts on that? Imagine if he was boxing the 20 Kingdoms in Gear 4. If Joy Boy also had Gear 4, because my thought process is that Luffy was the one who discovered Gear 2nd, Gear 3rd, Gear 4th, right? Like, that's not a part of the original thing of the fruit. I thought that Joy Boy went from the Gomu Gomu stuff to the Nika stuff, like, right off the bat. He just went right into it, waking the fruit, and he did not have access to the other things that Luffy's found. No, if Joy Boy had all that stuff too, goodness great. It makes sense why it took all 20 kingdoms. Can you imagine someone... Bro, that man is like Ben 10,000. You guys ever watch Ben 10? There was an episode called Ben 10,000 where Ben had full control of 10,000 aliens in the Omnitrix and did not have the time limit on. It's like you understood why this man was the most powerful dude in the galaxy. Now you think about Joy Boy. If he had complete mastery over all 5 gears and was switching between them like he was Ben 10,000, brother, no wonder they summoned the whole 20 kingdoms in order to go fight these dudes. Luffy by himself, or Joy Boy by himself, was causing that pain on him. Are you kidding? Could you imagine someone? No time limit on Gear 4 or Gear 5? With complete mastery of the fruit. We're done. We're done, man. We're done. I don't know if that was intentional, N64. But, like I said, if he's trying to show us someone in Gear 5 in the Snake Man pose to let us know this man complete mastery over the fruit, listen, man. That's some crazy stuff. That's some crazy stuff, dude. That's some crazy stuff, man. I would be so down for that. Appreciate you, N64. Subra comes in and says, sorry, King, missed the stream. Had classes. Dude, take care of your classes, man. And this chapter was so firing at the end. Can you imagine if the next chapter starts with Vegapunk revealing the fight is still fought by the current JB, who also has a stake of... Literally what we were just talking about, bro. I would not be surprised in the slightest if he were to say something like that. Who also has the same fruit, a.k.a. Luffy to the world. Main topic after watching the reaction, your Hayao Miyazaki reference. Yo, shout out to everybody in the comments for the Afterthoughts video who immediately caught the Laputa stuff. Because I was like, man, I don't know if I should talk about it. I don't know how many people have watched these movies. But obviously Studio Ghibli is extremely popular. I just didn't know how much of my audience had experienced the greatness. So one of these days, we are most certainly going to have to discuss the greatness there, because Oda obviously has taken major inspiration from many different works, as we've seen throughout the course of the story. But God, man, after rewatching Castle in the Sky, I was like, bro, there's no way these connections aren't like that he wasn't at least subconsciously inspired by this. Maybe watch a series that I had planned for a long time. I had previously watched Laputa and made a theory on One Piece, but I've yet to post, and this series was part of my watch list for the same reason. It's called Future Boy Conan. Like Detective Conan? I watched a movie a few months ago called Atlantis. Shout out to Atlantis. That is a good movie. I haven't watched that in years, but I remember really enjoying it as a child. After this chapter, these two made me think of an old theory, pole shift. Most of the info are taken from many sites, and majorly a big Japanese YouTuber called Drop the Pizza. That's an awesome name, so no credit of mine. Though I don't know if Drop the Pizza, if that's a Final Fantasy VII reference, that is a sick individual. But if it is not a Final Fantasy VII reference, it's still a cool name. I mean, it's a cool name even if with the FF7 reference, but FF7 fans will be like, yo, what a sicko. But still, before going deep, some references I just got while searching. First of all, the pole shift is a thing that was a part of Future Boy Conan. Let me explain a little. A great disaster happens and the whole world sinks under the sea because of a magnetic weapon more powerful than nuclear weapons. The world's axis was twisted, causing the separation of the continents, eventually sinking them. Now what happens in a pole shift? North and south poles become the east and west sides and vice versa. What are the consequences? The water level in the lower area rises drastically. Like it fell down, sank under the sea. Long Reed Longland, Fish from the Island, and latest Arc, Wano, and many more. Now, the most interesting thing is the water flow was reversed during a pole shift, reverse mountain entry to the Grand Line. That is interesting. I did not think about that. Oh, wow. The water flow being reversed. Holy flagnards. Wait, so if they go around the world, does that mean they would have to go on reverse mountain and instead go directly into the ocean? Next is Laputa. As you've seen it, you'll know a lot of what I mean. A year-old theory. The opening song is the Void Century flashback. The advanced civilization. Yes, you're talking about the opening song, Castle in the Sky. Yes, the advanced civilization was destroyed and sank under the sea. There crystallized poneglyphs, names with like your D in the middle. Yes, you are D in the middle. Finally, the power source of Laputa, aka Mother Flame. Yes, right, yes. So I think Uranus will be a design inspired by Laputa. I also do as well. The third and final movie references Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Now, I'll enter into the Disney World and Oda references. We all know how much Oda loves this Disney stuff. First, the flying fisherman pirates are there in that movie. There's a Kraken that attacked the MCs too. By the way, you know this quote by Willie Gallen. Anything man can imagine is possibly reality. Yes, it's originally a quote by Jules Verne, who wrote the story of the Atlantis book. Also known as the man who invented the future. From a YouTuber, I came to know there was a rabbit called Roger Rabbit in Disney. Yes, who framed Roger Rabbit? And his hometown is Toontown, which inspired Logetown. That's actually really cool. I'll make it short now. I got too big. What is the D? That is the question. That is the question we've been trying to answer for many years. And the whole world is O, and there existed two different categories of people with different ideologies as confirmed by Vegapunk this week. So you think a whole full circle, you make that half circle, get the D. That divided the world into two parts, each half became D. So Emu will be a D, but with different ideologies than people like Roger. That is, Emu being a D is so... And if we find out that Emu is a D, that will be one of the craziest reveals in the story, for sure. Like Roger, Saul, and Luffy, but maybe similar to Rox and Blackbeard. Good point. Why do I think it's possible? First, Shanks, the South Pole versus Buggy, the North Pole. Which before the pole shifted would be West Blue Shanks' hometown, and East Blue possibly Buggy's hometown. Shanks is Celestial Dragon, so I can say Buggy is a D. The second and the most interesting, check Discord, I've shared 3 pictures. Oh yeah, the pictures that you sent me. Did Roger tells Rayleigh and Whitebeard's last words turn the world upside down? Yes. One fun fact: Lodestar, or in Japanese called Lodestar, can be translated as road start. So pole shift might have turned the start of the journey into the end. You are absolutely right, dude. And that would go back to the X marks the spot and reverse mountain theories. Like, it would just make so much sense. I would love that. I really do it. I really, really would, bro. One curious thing, let me add. Luffy, Law, and Kid. One fruit is the literal god, Imu opposes it. Other is immortality, similar to the Gorosei. So magnetic powers might be connected to Uranus. And those destructive attacks are like Kid's laser attack, right? Yes, but multiple. You are spitting, dude. I just gathered many info and sparked my collective thoughts. Hope you liked it. Yo, Subra, thank you. That was a great comment. A lot of food for thought there. Especially with the references. I need to go back and watch that movie. And the pole shift idea is so good. I need to watch that video by Drop the Pizza. That's, by the way, awesome name. Awesome flippin' name, man. Seriously. Where is Praetorus at? Mustafizor123 with a 100% banger comment. Egghead has been non-stop bangers. Seriously. Seriously. It's kind of insane. It's kind of insane. Goat Luffy 97 says, "Hey coach, what a chapter once again. Feels like Oda's in peak form for the better part of this arc, and especially now. Any thoughts on Joy Boy having a member or members of his crew backstabbing him? We hear both Tsunade and the Iron Giant apologize to him. Do you think Oda will have something similar play out with the Straw Hats? Will a member of the crew lose their faith in Luffy, or do you believe them staying loyal to Luffy will be what's different now than during the Void Century?" Actually, let me take your idea and put it in direct parallel with Emu. If someone did backstab Joy Boy, I don't think the betrayal will happen to Luffy. I think the betrayal will happen to Emu. If Joy Boy had a member of his crew backstab him, and we have other members of his crew apologize for either A, not capturing it, or B, that they might have taken part within this, which I don't think that's the case. I think it would be A, that they couldn't stop him from being backstabbed. Then I do think that instead of the Straw Hats, something will happen with Emu and his squad. Like maybe the thing that allowed Emu to be able to overcome all of that would be that traitor. And now, one of the things that's going to allow Emu to lose in the end game will be one of the members of the Gorosei turning on him. And that would be something that, of course, would directly parallel the stuff with Joy Boy, if that is true. But I think Oda would go for a traitorous scenario with Emu rather than Straw Hats, because I don't think a Straw Hat's going to be traitorous at this point. I mean, if somebody in the Straw Hats is a traitor, and my heart would be broke, that would break my heart more than a character dying. Seriously, I no traitors. And the only way there would be a traitor is it wouldn't even be a traitor. It would be like someone. It just wouldn't make any sense to me. Like that is the one thing that I don't think they would literally have to be like controlled, straight up Gios style, for that to have any sort of plausibility. So I feel like the betrayal would happen with Emu in the squad, and not with the Straw Hats. Personally. But great comment, Gold Luffy. Absolutely. Praetorus, Oda's editor, comes in and says, as everyone is aware by now, Oda's using the flood to tie the world into the final saga. But I think he's about to take that idea further than anyone expects. Oh man, for 3 chapters straight, Oda has gone out of his way to pull out characters nobody expected to see ever again. I think he's about to use the Around the World chapters to tell 100 side stories at once, following all these characters as they try to survive the flood. This man has been clowned for reaction panels his whole career, and now he just might go and turn it into a totally unique way of storytelling only possible for this series in this art form. That is such a great point, Praetorus. Holy flag nerds, that is such a great point. When Oda announced the final saga, I was sad because I thought 25 years of world building was going to force compromises, especially for the time frame that he gave. Morse was even theorizing he would skip Elbaf, so I was certain all the detours that I love would become dead ends. Not in my wildest dreams did I imagine Oda would leave nothing behind. If I'm right, this could easily be my favorite part of the final saga. Oh man, and that's our post-Egghead? Oh man. Any characters we haven't seen yet that you want to see in Coach? that you want in, coach? For my health and well-being, I need to see Cricket diving for the lost cities and Baratier feeding the masses. But most of all, someone needs to warn my goat, Gaimon. I'm right there with you. Gaimon would be... I talked about this actually a few streams ago. That I would really love to see Gaimon. Gaimon would be like the character I really want to see the one of... He's like in my top 5 characters I want to see the most right now. Definitely. I absolutely love Gaimon. I'm right there with you with Gin and Baratier. Like characters like Gin associated with Baratier. Obviously, our beloved Baratier crew is characters that I would love to see. I would love to see Zeph's reaction to this, especially now that we're seeing, you know, Kaya and Mary, and we're seeing Nojiko and Genzo. It's like, yeah, it's about time we go over to see Zeph's reaction and stuff. I would not be surprised in the slightest for that. As well as in regards to Cricket. I think Cricket would be perfect, especially since we're already in Jaya. Why not stay in Jaya and have Cricket barge in there and be like, "I was making all that noise." You know what I mean? Let people dream. As he goes into the ocean, attempts to dive for the cities. I think that'd be great. I think that'd be so awesome for us to get those cameos. Now, if you're asking me, you know, there's one man I gotta bring into the picture, bro. I don't think it's going to happen yet. But one reaction I would love to see, that of course we have not seen yet, is flipping NL, man. Y'all know I've been asking for it. Y'all know how much I want it. But NL, who went from the sky and then to the moon, for him to come back down and see the state of the blue sea, I feel like I'd be more interested in his reaction to all of this now than ever before. Considering how much he must know now, and considering the potential lore there with the Sky Pirates that happened, right? Like maybe these individuals similar, them and the Tontatas. I most certainly, which is the craziest thing, going from NL to Tontatas, but because the Tontatas spoke of what happened 800 years ago, in such detail, I want to see their reactions to this too. Being like, how similar is this to what happened all the way back in the day as well, right? Like, specifically to the Elder Tontata and the stories they might have heard throughout the years and that were passed down. I think those are going to be 2 very interesting cameos just for lore purposes and for hype purposes for me for NL, right? Like, I really want to see my boy NL. But Gaimon for sure. Really want to see NL, obviously. Y'all know how much I love pudding. So it would be great to, but even it just wouldn't be possible because of pudding being captured. So I think above all else right now, Oda, if he wants to pull out any characters to have like random cameos, I'm all for it. Like any random 2nd or 3rd bosses from any of the crews, I'd be down for it. You know, I'd be super down for it. But Gaimon and NL would probably be at the very top of the list for just getting me extremely excited. Of like, oh man, it's finally happening. And Gin, obviously, because we haven't seen Gin or Johnny and Yosuke in like 1,000 chapters, literally, or maybe even more, like 1,050 chapters. It's been a long time since I've seen those characters, so that would get a very big reaction out of me. Those would be extremely exciting. So definitely looking forward to them, since we're in the middle of crazy cameo piece, right? How great would that be? But yeah, off the top of my head, I NL for sure is number 1 with Gaimon right behind, for sure. But like you said, this is only possible due to the medium of manga, the medium of comics, and the story he's told to this point. It's sort of similar to something that Trails did with telling a story that took place within 2 different sections of the world, and going and telling it from one POV and then telling it from the other POV. And that's only possible. I mean, you could do that in the realm of novels or manga, right? But being able to play and make the decisions yourself, knowing, especially once you've already played one perspective and you have to do it from the other perspective, it's like, holy sweet mother of flagnards, I now have to execute these commands. And it puts you into the mindset of both sides of the conflict. and it's like sweet mother of flagnards, man, and it is genius. And so in a different regard, it's something here, right? It's similar yet different regard, something that can only be done through the medium of manga and comics, thanks to the panel and visual medium that it is. It really is. Like, I can't believe we saw Nojiko in the latest chapter. That's so cool. Boxing. Tomorrow Black. Like, what, man? That is nuts. That is actually nuts. And it's like, yeah, man, I'd have to go back through and see, like, truly which characters, like Sindri, I think would be another really, really random, cool one from Thriller Party. Just a random, nice little cameo. But I need to go back and look through the manga volumes again and just see what characters I really like to see. And the Zontados, like I said, I really want to see their reactions to all of this, considering that they've heard the stories of what happened in the past, right? In intricate detail. Like, they really went into it. So 100%. Thank you as always, Praetorius. Gold Slash comes to this personally. Shout out to Praetorius, man. Cooked last Afterthoughts. He really did, bro. Is that man a Vegapunk satellite? Oh man, Caesar, dude. We gotta see my dog. Even though we saw him last week. Yeah, we saw him last week. Never mind. We saw him last week. Or the week before. 11. What was that? 14? Yeah, 14, I think it was. Yeah, it was 11-14. Shout out to my guys. Seriously though, Egghead has been so peak. Elbaf is about to be truly legendary. The silhouettes of Joy Boy versus the OG20 Kings is fire. Dude, that panel was so good, man. It would have been so cool if you could see the Strahd silhouetted too. Oh. Incoming at some point. If Luffy destroyed the Red Line, would the sea level lower down that it's no longer dammed up? Or would this cause massive waves, causing even more chaos? Is the structure underwater the home of the ancient giants like oars? Or were all buildings much bigger like the skyscrapers we have today? That might be where we're heading, man. I said it in stream, but does seeing Tomorrow Black, pretending to be kidding me, the real one has come back stronger like Luffy did? Yes, 100%. It wouldn't be a 2-year training arc, but perhaps after the Divine Departure, figured out you can use King's Hockey to code attacks. Yes, 100%. He is going to come back stronger than ever, more than likely in Elbaf, and that is what the Tomorrow Black stuff was letting us know. 100%, no question. Extra, but I've been a fan of the idea that Usopp will get Mjolnir in Elbaf. I've always loved the idea that Usopp will get any type of mythological ability and or suit of armor or equipment or something. I'm so down for that idea. A hammer with the mythical Zoan flute Thor. Oof. Can you imagine? Given the hammer personality, it could be similar to the normal version where not everyone could wield it. Thus, Usopp really would become a god Usopp, 100%. Can you imagine that? However, what if it's actually Kid that gets it? With the magnet powers he has, he could throw and pull the hammer back. That's a good point. I believe that the thunder of the hammer and his magnetic powers could amplify each other. Another chapter of Goat Raw Fire Peak Fiction. I honestly, 100% in that regard. But dude, I didn't even think about that Kid thing. Like, yeah, and obviously I'm expecting Kid and Usopp to both have major spotlight within Elbaf, so I definitely think it could go either way. As a matter of fact, I think both of them are going to get some sort of crazy, really cool stuff happening. But man, Mjolnir? Thor's hammer? Like, come on, man. What more could you ever ask for if you're a Kid fan? Let's go through a few more. Time Lord 22 says, we know there were some sunken cities before this. There were the remains of a kingdom that used a paw print as their logo/crest. Back in the Jinbei cover story, absolutely. Don't know if it's connected to the city depicted underwater in 1115 or if it will be relevant later, but I do think it's interesting to mention. So we talked about this a little bit, Time Lord, but for the Jinbei cover story, I strongly believe, even though it's not probably nothing there showcases something from the civilization that we see in that panel in particular, but I do think it, of course, is a part of the old world. And in some way, shape, or form, it has something to do with the old world that we just been to talk about with, like, the old Wano, the old whatever, man, the old Dressrosa, the old Alabasta, the old, all those. That's what Jinbei was seeing within that cover story, and that's really something you can only see unless you have a coded ship or if you're a fisherman. So Jinbei might have been the first one to discover all that in many, many years. years. Many, many years. So, and I think that's so cool. So cool. But yeah, no, absolutely, Time Lord. That's something I've been thinking about a lot, is that Jimmy cover story, because there was so much there. So much there. Caribou-kun comes in and says, I keep coming back to how this whole time we still haven't seen Blackbeard, Buggy, and Shanks. Or really Luffy's reaction to all of this. Luffy, you know, he's not going to give a flying flag, man. But Blackbeard, Buggy, and Shanks. Actually, I wonder what Luffy would feel, not in regards to the Joy Boy stuff, but in regards to the sink to the world sinking. I think he would actually be, not for himself, but for the individuals whom he's gone on this journey with, and all the people that he's gone on this journey with, and all, you know, Dressrosa, Alabasta, Drum Island, all these places that he's helped and gotten to where they are. He would be fearful of them. Like, if the sea level continues to rise, they're gonna die. So, I wonder how he would feel about that. I think, well, and obviously Blackbeard, Buggy, and Shanks, I'm really hoping we get the reactions soon, man. Like, I'm really hoping that this is the chapter. Either this is the chapter, or we get all that stuff in post-Egghead. Like, I'm really hoping that we get their stuff. I think while everyone else is concerned about their homes getting flooded and perhaps fighting the new government, the Yonker all vibe for the same thing. My first thought to this news, and likely theirs, is that they gotta get to Laugh Tale and claim the One Piece before it sinks into the ocean, and to create this incredible race against time. Oda at this point in time is crafting his best race against time mechanic. You know how he does that in every single arc, but he truly is crafting the very best one that is going to capture the entire course of the story. And I think it's going to be one of two things, maybe even both. I do think that while the sea level is rising, while the sea level is going to max level, right, there is going to be some sort of catastrophe coming in from the sky. Because it's One Piece. There has to be, bro. I have said this for a long time, that One Piece is inspired by JRPGs, and the JRPG of JRPGs has the most iconic race against time of all, ever, right? So it's like when you have multiple of these iconic, incredible stories / video games, having the meteorite / something coming in from the sky in a certain amount of time that you have to defeat dude in order to stop either aka the meteor or something falling down from the sky, and or in One Piece's case something the sea levels rising. I think that would be such a great race against time scenario. Now obviously it's not gonna be the exact same thing, but I think it would be so cool if while we're going through the rest of the story from this point forward, there is that sense of urgency, considering we have to finish this, right, before the sea level rises to wherever it's about to go. And I assume by the end of the story, by the time we get to Laugh Tale, it is going to engulf a lot of the planet, because the All Blue has to happen. So if the All Blue is going to happen, the planet is going to be covered in water in some way, shape, or form for a certain amount of time. So, and I wonder how that's going to play out. Similarly, if something is going to fall from the sky, you know, like, and that creates that very same race against time, but in another way. Who knows? Who knows? But I am right there with you. I think that'd be so great, Caribou. And then right here, 123 Recon. Shout out to Recon. Says, yo, two thoughts, coach. First of all, I'm very confident Kid will come back into the story after the Straw Hats got wiped out in Sabaody. We had a narrator box saying they were defeated. Same thing with Kid as well. Then a time skip happened and fake Straw Hats were cosplaying. Same with Kid. Very confident in this parallel since Kid was meant to be the most important supernova when he was created. Absolutely. Like we talked about a few minutes ago, I am so behind the fake Kid showing up, and then once we get to Elbaf, we're going to see the real Kid. Right? Like, that's just, either we see him there or in King Kai's palace. Lastly, I'm pretty confident the reason the Great War hasn't ended is because it requires Emu claiming the One Piece. And that is where, oh, that would be fascinating. Emu needs to claim the One Piece because that is the final piece, the final thing that he needs. Joy Boy may have been defeated, but that didn't mean the WG won the war right after. Joy Boy hiding the One Piece and Laugh Tale is the reason why Emu is still working behind the shadows to win it. This will be why the race to the One Piece is more important than ever. The WG will be involved heavily. It's also probably the right time now to use the One Piece. Roger was too early. Yes, like we talked about before, Recon. We have spoken this on many different streams. That the reason why, especially within the Egghead chapters, that the reason why Roger was too early is because all the stuff that we're seeing right now wasn't happening at that point in time. right? So even though he was seeing and hearing all this stuff within the Joy Boy flashback, he couldn't do anything about it. Because it still wasn't happening. But now is the perfect time. Now is when it's happening. The race to the One Piece is truly going to be more important than it ever has at any point in the story, connecting to the Caribou comment. Absolutely. And I love that, because it places importance on the ultimate thing that we've been searching for this entire time, which is the One Piece. And it also places importance and urgency on all 4 of the factions, of the major Emperor factions, going for it at the same time before the planet gets swallowed up. So it's like, if they have to go out and find it, and now you have Emu and the Holy Knights and whatever the Flatteners are going to be sending to go ensure that this doesn't happen, it's just going to cause for so much intense awesomeness, man, that I can't wait for it. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here today. Awesome comments. You guys cooked as always. You have no idea how excited I am for this week's chapter, bro. It is going to be something that I know all of us are already feeling it. Going from 11, what was the return chapter? 11, 12? Or 11, 13? Whichever was a return chapter. Ever since he came back from break, it has been non-stop lore piece greatness. And he says, I can't believe the last chapter wasn't a break chapter. And so we go into this week's chapter. Who knows what's in store for us? Who knows? Coming off of the insanity of last week. Oh, man, dude. Like, yo, do we finish the message this week? Do we get the Yonko reactions this week? What do we see? What do we hear? What happens? Like, man, I can't wait. But I will see y'all next time. Thank you so much for watching. We have finally back with doing the Recon piece and the Afterthoughts on regular scheduled programming. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys for the stream and this week's chapter reaction. Thanks so much for watching. Take care and have a blessed one.